Hey monkeys, it's Jim from Small Time Outlaws once again, and I'm bringing you the 12th video in this simple game programming in Monkey tutorial series. In this video, we're going to finish up polishing the graphicals by using the remaining images in the data folder. So our main menu screen, we're going to have a new death screen, and we're also going to add the background and foreground during our game. And then we're also going to implement some menu functionality when we're starting out the game. So we'll be able to select how many players are going to play and all that. So first things first, let's go ahead and add a couple fields, one for our background image and one for our foreground image during the game. And then you'll want to make sure you have these images in your data folder. Alright. And you can see I've got mine, the background, death screen, foreground, main screen. So let's load up our background image and our foreground image. So background is assigned load image, background. And these, you don't have to do anything special for them. We're not even going to mid-handle or anything. We're just going to draw them on the screen before we do anything to our matrix and after we do anything to our matrix, so they aren't affected by the camera position. So when we go, after we load them in, with our load image background, foreground, go down into our onRender method, and before we push matrix and before we draw, our player and our rocks and everything, we want to draw the background image. So the way we'll do that is called draw image, background, and then we're going to draw it 0, 0 because it's not mid-handled anymore. So by default, it draws from the top left corner of the image. So we're going to put it at the top left corner of the screen. So we're going to draw the background, then draw everything on top of that, and then we're going to draw our foreground after all that. So and before our score boxes and stuff. So after the pop matrix, you want to make sure, and then we're going to draw our foreground. So draw image foreground at 0, 0, and so now when we run this, you'll see that we have a nice background and a foreground. So the reason I've done a background and a foreground, so you see, so it kind of looks like these rocks are actually coming out of the lava. So I've got some lava on my foreground and then some lava on my background. So it looks like it's coming out of it. Pretty cool, right? And then the same thing with the spikes up here. We got spikes in the background and then spikes in the foreground. So it looks like it's going between the spikes. And then you also see I added some rocky stuff to the sides to show where the walls are. So that's that. Now we're going to do our main menu screen. So we need another field for that. We'll call it main menu. That's going to be an image. And we're also going to do death screen. That's going to be an image. And same with the background and foreground. We're just going to load images. So we're going to load main menu. It is load image. And what's it called? It's called main screen. .png, and then death screen is on load image, and it's called death screen with no A. And now when we go into our menu render, instead of this junky text, we're going to draw our main menu image. So draw image, main menu at 0, 0, so the top left corner. And then in our death screen, actually we're going to come back to the death screen because it requires a little more stuff. So in our main menu, we're just going to draw the image, and then just so you can see the image if you haven't looked at it yet. Basically what it's going to have is it's going to say left and right to choose the number of players and enter to play. So when they hit left and right, it's going to start with one player here, and then it's going to go, if they hit right, it's going to add 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then go back. And so it's between 1 and 4. So let's go back, and we're going to create some fields for that functionality. First being the number of players in the game, or number of players that are going to be created when the game starts. And by default that's going to be 1, and then the max players we can have. So the max players are going to show up in that player selection screen. And we're going to set that to 4 for right now. And now let's go into the on update for the menu, and this key hit enter. That's all fine. We're going to add some more functionality. So if key hit, key left, and the number of players is greater than 1, then we can go ahead and subtract 1 from num players. Otherwise, if they hit the right key, key right, and num players is less than the maximum players, we're going to add 1 to the number of players. And now we're going to go back to the render for our menu, and on top of our draw image we're going to draw our little dudes. So starting off, we're going to create an X offset variable, and this is going to, by default, is going to be the middle of our screen. So we're going to say screen width divided by 2, and then we're going to subtract how many players there are. And we're going to subtract 1 because by default, if there's just one player, we want this value to be 0. We're going to multiply it by 24, I believe. So we want this to be 0 by default, so when there's one player selected, then it's going to be in the direct center. And then when they have 2, that X offset is going to start drawing our players to the left 24 pixels. And then when there's 3, it's 48, and so on. So now we'll go just below that. We're going to loop through the number of players. So I'll create a local I. For I is on 0 until, whoops, I already did until the number of players. We're going to draw the player's image, add that X offset, and we're going to offset once more. So this offset is really just the original X position, and then we're going to offset it by the current player times, we'll say 48 because we did 24 here, so we'll just double it. And then we're going to stick it not quite in the very center of the screen. I think it's screen height, so that's going to the middle of the screen, and then I think we're going to subtract, or we'll go down just a little more by 20, and then finally to get the frame of the image, it's just going to be I times 8. So that'll be 0 for the first dude, and then 8 for the next one, the girl, then 16, and then 24. And just for fun, I'm going to add a little I plus 2, so each one has a different pose. So it's going to be kind of funky. And now we're going to end that, and that should, let's see, max players. Why isn't max players defined? Oh, I need to change this to max players. Let's try this. Oh, what is going on? Okay, I think I'm getting a little tired. Alright, num players on that. So now you can see we got 1 here, and I hit right. Now we got 2, and she's got a different pose, and then 3, he's got a different pose, and then finally 4, she's got a different pose. So that's how we'll select our players. And now we're going to make it so this player selection actually creates players based on how many players we choose. So first off, we're going to go to our reset function, our reset method. Where did we put that? Generate floor, game setup, reset. And before we do anything, we want to clear the players. And we can take this out because we're not just resetting, we're actually clearing, and then we're going to recreate them every time. So now in our game setup, we're actually going to do our player adding. So let's go back to our onCreate, and we're going to take out these player add last. So you can cut them, so we're going to paste them down into the bottom, or into our game setup function. So before we do anything here, we're going to add these players, and we're going to do it 4 times for 4 players. And so now what we're going to do is just, it's kind of a cheaty shortcut way to do this, but it works. It works. So we're going to say if the number of players is greater than or equal to 1, then we're going to add player 1. And If it's greater than or equal to 2, then we're going to add 1 and 2. If it's greater than or equal to 3, then it's going to add 1, 2, and 3. And if it's greater than 4, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's just because we're going to have different values here for different players. And like all the positions, everything's going to be all different. So it's just kind of easier to just do them all right here in separate lines. So starting with player 1, they're going to have A and D. Player 2, okay, they'll have left and right. But we want to shift them over just a little bit to make room for the other players. So now player 3, let's say they have, I don't know, if they're A and D, we can say player 3 is J and L. And they're going to be 100 over from player 2. And they're also going to have their frame's going to start at frame 16. And then finally, the last one, let's have some fun with this one. We'll make it the mouse. So key left mouse button and key right mouse button to go left and right. And 100 more over. And then that's going to start at 24 for the last player image or animation. Okay, so that should work. Let's give it a go. So now we have one player. Okay, that's our little dude. He uses A and D. Nice. So let's run it again. Run it again. And let's select 3 players. There we go. Yeah, they all have their different keys. That's cool. Okay, so that's working. So let's go ahead and now let's change up our death screen. So let's go back to state death, and it's not going to draw text anymore. It's actually going to draw our death image, or death screen image, I should say. So death screen at 0, 0. And then we're going to calculate the player, still the same. And this is not going to be draw text anymore. This is going to be, we're going to draw an image for the winning player, and that's going to be pretty much in the same position as when we drew it on the menu. So it's going to be what, take all this out. So it's going to be draw image, players image, and then we're going to go the middle of the screen, so screen width divided by 2, then the middle of the screen in the Y direction divided by 2, but offset by 20 or so, and then the frame is going to be the winning player dot frame offset. And then finally, instead of drawing this text, we don't need that, and we don't need to set the color again. So we're going to do a score font, because if I can show you right now when we run a game and when everybody dies. So we have one guy, I'm just make him die real fast to go ahead and die. So you're gonna see it's game over. The winner is him, and then with, and then we'll put how many points he scored right here. And then it says press enter again, or press escape from menu. And we're gonna add that functionality as well. So we're gonna do a score font, draw string, and we're gonna draw the winning player's score in the middle of the screen in the X direction, and then the middle of the screen, well, shift it down from the middle of the screen in the Y direction, about, let's say 120 or so, and then it's going to be centered vertically and horizontally. And now let's go back to the on update for our, when we're in our state death, because you notice it said hit escape if you want to go back to the menu. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to allow them to go back to the menu. So we're going to add one more key hit check here. We'll say key if key hit is key escape, then the game state is assigned to state menu. So we're going to go back to the menu. Ugh. And we're also going to reset. Actually, we don't need to reset. It's going to reset when we hit enter in the menu. So let's go ahead and run this now. And you can see you can choose some players. I can choose 4 players, so you can see we got all 4 players. This guy's using the mouse. And okay, everybody died except for lonely old Timmy or whatever his name is. And you can see, yeah, with 1,014 points, congratulations. Enter to play again or escape from the menu. I'm going to say escape. Now we're back at the menu. We change the number of players to 2. Now there's just 2 players playing around, and there's an 18 right there. Let's get rid of that too. So let's close this, and while I track down wherever I'm drawing that 18 from. That's it for this video. The next one is actually the last video in this series, and in it we're going to add music and sound to our game to finish it all off. So I hope you're excited to finish this game finally, and I'll see you there once I figure out where that. Let's do a search for draw text. What's going on here? Okay, so I didn't find it, so it must be in here. There it is. Okay, that was some debugging I was doing. So you probably don't have that in yours. Alright, that's it. I'll see you in the next video.